Lots to talk about then with the Conservative Party co-chair. Joins us now, Mr Dowden. How's the new job going?
Very well, thank you, Kay.
Yeah?
Delighted to be on here with you.
You had time to have a holiday?
No, certainly not since I was appointed chair of the Conservative Party.
Talk about delays at Felixstowe. Apparently a third of UK freight comes through Felixstowe. What's the problem?
Well, first of all, it is worth noting, I believe, that Felixstowe Port authorities have said this morning that the situation is improving, which is welcome news. There is, though, clearly a challenging problem, particularly with HGV drivers, and not just here, it's across Europe, Poland, US, even China has this challenge. That's why we've been taking steps to address it, whether it is, for example, with more training, 5,000 more places for training HGV drivers, making the process more flexible. We're working through these challenges to address them. And I know that it's a difficult and worrying time for your viewers, and they'll be concerned by these reports, but I want to assure them and assure you that the government is very much seized of these challenges and is getting on with the job of addressing them.
That 5,000 European drivers, how's that going?
Well, so there's two separate elements. So there's 5,000 more training, so getting more people trained within the UK, more places for them training, and then there's the further 5,000 visas up in the run-up to Christmas that we've made available. I don't have the latest numbers to hand for it.
I do. 27.
Well, we may have more updated numbers than that now.
It's not going to be in the hundreds, though, is it?
Well, it is one part of a range of measures that we are taking. So that is not the only sort of thing upon which we're leaning.
It's disappointing, though.
Well, I'm sure we will get more numbers as time goes on, but that's why we're not just relying, and it's really important that we don't just rely on importing labour, as we have done in the past. We also need to make sure we train up people here in the UK. That's why we're putting the extra resources into training people up in the UK. That's why we're making the process better and more streamlined. So there's a range of measures, and it's all about this wider point, which is that we need to get the skills here, have those higher paid jobs. And actually, the latest news just yesterday about increases in wages is a real example of how that strategy is working.
But the short-term impact is that toys are being turned away for Christmas.
Well, the situation is improving. I'm confident that people will be able to get their toys for Christmas. As I say, I quite understand why people are concerned by these headlines, but we are working through these challenges as we have worked through other challenges.
So should people buy now for Christmas, just to be on the safe side?
I think it's sensible to buy when you want. Some people buy very early for Christmas. My wife is quite an early Christmas buyer.
Me too, actually, to be fair.
Others buy later. I would say just buy as you do normally.
So for all the kids watching, obviously Father Christmas will be fine and he'll have everything.
Yes, I have children myself, and they can be.
There you go. Dad's reassuring you this morning, kids. All's going to be well. The EU instead. Let's talk about that. The Northern Ireland Protocol. Lots of EU concessions. We're going to hear more about that, but it's been heavily leaked in the papers today. I'm sure you're well aware. Are the concessions that they're coming up with enough?
Well, clearly we'll wait to receive the full announcement from the EU, and I know that Lord Frost, as he said yesterday, and the government as a whole will engage fully constructively with these proposals. It is, though, important that there is fundamental change to the Northern Ireland Protocol, so we'll be looking to see that, but let's see exactly what the EU comes up with.
Well, apparently they are going to offer, we're told, to remove a majority of the post-Brexit checks on British goods. Up to 50% of customs checks on goods will be lifted. More than half of the checks on meat and plants entering Northern Ireland would be abandoned under the new concessions. Would that be enough?
Well, those are welcome steps, and we will look at them and engage properly with them. But we do need to have a proper discussion about this, because I think there are wider questions, particularly in relation to the competence of the European Court, what used to be the ECJ, the CJEU. It is a rather anomalous position whereby this treaty almost uniquely is governed by the courts of one party to it.
Well, we knew that already.
Yes, we knew that.
And we didn't highlight it until recently.
Well, we knew that originally, but I think two things have changed since then. First of all, that was agreed without knowing what the wider trade relationship would be with the EU. Now we have got a comprehensive trade arrangement with them. And secondly, it is clear that in Northern Ireland, and particularly in one community in Northern Ireland, the Northern Ireland Protocol is not working. And one of the challenges of that is the fact that the treaty is governed by the courts of one of the signatories. So I think we do also need to engage on that more fundamental issue.
What do we want that to look like? Who do you want to oversee this?
Well, there's plenty, and again, I don't want to preempt those discussions, but there are many international treaties that have independent courts and arbitrations mechanisms for them that don't belong to one party or the other. And I think it's appropriate that we should engage with the EU to see how we can resolve that. Because in the end, I think the UK and the EU, we surely are united in the same position, which is that we want to maintain a stability in Northern Ireland. We want to ensure the continuity of the Belfast Agreement and all the other progress that we've made. And there is a problem with this protocol at the moment.
So is it a deal breaker if the European Court still has oversight?
Well, it is a major issue for us, and we want to engage with it. I'm not going to start preempting, writing red lines here and there, but I think what Lord Frost said yesterday, this was a major issue, and we do expect.
I mean, they've made a lot of concessions
there.
It would appear. I'm sure that my viewers would think the same, but now you're saying it can't be overseen by the European Court. So it does sound as though it's a red line.
Well, I very much welcome what the EU has said, and we will engage very constructively. We'll go through it in detail. I don't know every element of what the EU are proposing. We've seen some of these reports. We also made clear, and Lord Frost made clear yesterday, consistent with the command paper we issued in July, that we also have a challenge with the way in which this treaty is governed, the court that has jurisdiction over it. So we would expect to engage with the EU on that point as well.
Some say that you are negotiating, the UK is negotiating in bad faith.
No, quite the contrary. Indeed, it has always been the case that treaties and agreements are up for further discussion and further agreement on them. If you take, for example, the juxtaposed controls in relation to France, our treaty with France on border controls, those have been revised over time, and indeed I believe the French are seeking again to change those. This is perfectly normal that we should seek to adapt, and in the end what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have something that is enduring, that works for Northern Ireland, and I think that's a goal that surely both us and the EU should share.
Oh, I'm glad you brought up the French. I hadn't thought about that. Speaking to one of your colleagues last week about when we're going to give them the money we owe them. Any clearer on that?
Well, we expect the French to do their part of the bargain, which means
Are they not?
Well, the Home Secretary has raised concerns about that, and I'm sure that the Home Secretary will be making sure that that is done if the French keep up their side.
So it's not us reneging on another deal, is it?
No, it's not us reneging on a deal at all. It's making sure that we deliver on what was agreed originally.
So we don't feel we're getting value for money at the moment, so we're not paying them?
Well, the Home Secretary has raised concerns about this with her French opposite numbers, and we very much hope and would expect that we would make payments as agreed, but the French need to keep up their side of the agreement.
So your colleague said to me the other day that the payment would be going through within a matter of weeks. That's not necessarily the case.
Well, we would very much hope and expect that would be the case, but in return we'd expect the French to keep up their side of the agreement. OK,
talk to me about this damning report that came out yesterday about the government's handling of the pandemic. Just to check, first of all, you have read it, have you?
Yes, of course, I've seen it.
You say, of course, because, of course, yesterday the Minister hadn't read it. Are you happy to offer an apology to all of the families who lost loved ones? Well,
the Prime Minister apologised earlier this year for all the hurt and distress that all those families have suffered, and I share that, and of course I offer that as well. It's been a terrible time for every family affected by this terrible virus. And by the way, I welcome this report as well. I think it's a very good report by Greg Clark and by Jeremy Hunt. And of course, the government will, as we do with all these reports, be fully analysing it and giving a full response to the report and all the recommendations in it.
Still looking for the word sorry?
Well, the Prime Minister has said sorry, and
are you sorry?
Yes, of course I'm sorry, as the Prime Minister is sorry. I was just listening to the sort of experiences yesterday of those bereaved families and that kind of terrible loss that they've suffered, and so many people have suffered, not just in this country but around the world from the COVID crisis. Of course, we're sorry for that.
What are you sorry about?
We're sorry for the losses that that all those families have suffered, but also, of course, we accept that, and I think your viewers would appreciate this as well. that during this COVID crisis, this was an unprecedented crisis. It's a once in 100 years event. There isn't some perfect rule book that we could follow. We are having to adapt and move very quickly. And of course, we would do some things differently with hindsight. But also, as the report rightly says, with things like the vaccine programme, we made huge progress and at real pace with it.
And Mr. Chair, I'm absolutely confident that my viewers, and you had a lot of support at the time. It was a once in 100 years global pandemic. But do you appreciate that when ministers sit there, not you, but your colleague yesterday, Steve Barclay, sat there and 11 times he refused to apologise? That means that, for my viewers, that says politicians are out of touch with the rest of society. Well,
I've said so times, I'm happy to say again that I completely appreciate and understand the hurt and the pain that families up and down this country have suffered as a result of COVID. It has been a terrible disease, and we're still not fully through it.
Yeah, but I went on to develop the point, which was when ministers sit there and won't apologise, can you understand that viewers feel that they're not in touch with their everyday concerns?
Well, I understand that your viewers want ministers like me, government ministers, to appreciate the scale of what's happened and the hurt that they feel, and we do, and the Prime Minister has acknowledged that and has said sorry for all the suffering that people have.
And when your colleagues refused to apologise 11 times?
Well, Steve said what Steve said yesterday, and I'm afraid I didn't read the full transcript of everything that was said in that particular interview. But the Prime Minister has been clear on that.
He should have said sorry then.
Well, the Prime Minister has said sorry. I'm not going to start giving running commentary on different interviews that I didn't watch. I don't know the full context.
You don't watch the show?
Sadly, I watch you.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Kay, I watch you many times, but sadly, yesterday morning I wasn't able to tune in.
OK, well, you can always watch it back on YouTube. What about your successor, Nadine Dorries, saying the BBC is not impartial?
Well, I think this is one of the big challenges for the BBC, and it's one of the things I talked about a lot as Culture Secretary with the BBC, and I very much share Nadine's sentiments that I love the BBC, I genuinely do, and I think the BBC should, though, be a proper national institution and reflect all parts of the country and all different perspectives, and therefore, in order to do that, they have to be impartial. They have to reflect not just the views in London and Bristol and Brighton, but also the views in Dudley and Lee and Wolverhampton or the north of Scotland. That is the role of the BBC, to be a genuine national broadcaster.
I think they know that. Do you think they don't fulfil that?
I think they have acknowledged, and if you look at what Tim Davie has said previously, he's acknowledged there is a challenge about making sure the BBC represents all parts of the United Kingdom, all different perspectives. And I think they acknowledge that there's further to go, and I would hope they continue to do so.
And what about when they interview your boss? Do you think they're impartial then?
I think the BBC needs to strive for impartiality in all of its
interviews. Did you see that interview?
I saw, well, I think there were 2 interviews in question, weren't there?
Talking particularly about the Andrew Marr interview.
I saw some of both the Marr interview and listened to some of the Nick Robinson interviews. You might appreciate, as chairman of the Conservative Party, I was quite busy during conference. I thought it was the way that the Prime Minister was told to stop talking. But again,
it can go on and on and on. It has to be said.
Right, well, I'm not going to get into the details of each interview, but I think as an overall point of principle, it is really important that the BBC upholds impartiality, and there are challenges with
that. Yeah, now I do need to let you go in just a second, but I just want to talk to you about this report from the Environment Agency. Climate change will cause more floods and droughts, rising sea levels and a greater demand for water supplies. That according to the Environment Agency. Are we doing enough to try to stop it?
We are, but there's lots more to do, and this is why the COP summit, the Climate Change Summit in November, is so essential, because it can't just be the UK alone. If we stopped all our emissions tomorrow, it wouldn't solve climate change. That's why we have to get that international agreement, and the Prime Minister and Alok Sharma, who's our special representative, are making good progress with that, and I'm very hopeful that we'll make progress at the summit. But in addition, we need to do things in the UK in the short run. For example, that's why we're investing over £5 billion in flood defences to protect communities that will be affected before we can get any wider climate change policies in place.
Congrats on the new job. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
finding the time to come and join us.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Kate.
it.